هادي الشعوب إذا تروم هداها هو رحمة للعالمين وكعبة الآمال في الدنيا وأخراها. من أيقظ الفطر النيام بروحه وكأنه بعد البلاء أحياها وأعاد تاريخ الحياة جديدة، مثل العرائس في جديد حلاها. ولزوج فاطمة بسورة هل أتى تاج يفوق الشمس عند ضحاها، أسد بحصن الله يرمي المشكلات، بصقيل يمحو سطور دجاها. إيوانه كوخ وكنز ثرائه سيف غدا بيمينه تياها. في روض فاطمة نما غصنان لم ينجبهما في النبارات سواها، فأمير قافلة الجهاد وقطب دائرة الوئام والاتحاد ابناها، حسن الذي صان الجماعة بعدما أمسى تفرقها يحل عراها. ترك الخلافة ثم أصبح في الديار إمام الفتى وحسن علاها، وحسين في الأبرار والأحرار ما أزكى شمائله وما أنداها. فتعلموا ري اليقين من الحسين إذا الحوادث أضمأت بلظاها، وتعلموا حرية الإيمان من صبر الحسين وقد أجاب نداها. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah, Abu Haidar. Inshallah, we'll now request Brother Abul Hassan to come and recite poetry in Urdu or English today. Urdu, inshallah. The salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Mar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. पहले ये मान ले के हैं मुश्किल खुशहाली, फिर देख तेरे वास्ते करते हैं क्या टल जाती हैं हमारी तो सारी मुसीबतें, टल जाती हैं हमारी तो सारी मुसीबतें। हम जब कभी खुलूस से कहते हैं या अली, پھر دیکھ تیرے واسطے اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات. جب کبھی تم گردش دوران سے گھبرایا کرو، پرچم عباس کے سائے میں آ جایا کرو. جب کبھی پیدا ہو دل میں خواہش خلد بری، جب کبھی پیدا ہو دل میں خواہش خلد بری، مجلس شبیر میں آیا کرو جایا کرو. خود بخود فکر و عمل کی تربیت ہو جائے گی، خود بخود فکر و عمل کی تربیت ہو جائے گی. اپنے بچوں سے علم غازی کا اٹھوایا کرو. رزق میں وسعت ملے گی، برکتیں بڑھ جائیں گی. رزق میں وسعت ملے گی، برکتیں بڑھ جائیں گی. حاضری حضرت عباس کروایا کرو. حبس کے ماحول میں جب بھی گھٹن محسوس ہو، حبس کے ماحول میں جب بھی گھٹن محسوس ہو، خوشبوئے ذکر علی سے گھر کو مہکایا کرو. آئے جب مد مقابل وقت کا کوئی یزید، آئے جب مد مقابل وقت کا کوئی یزید، یا حسین ابن علی کہہ کہہ کے ٹھکرایا کرو. جب کبھی تم گردش توراں سے گھبرایا کرو. بل محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
We'll inshallah continue our program. We are honored to have Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Al-Shara with us from Michigan. Sayyid is a graduate from University of Michigan, majoring in political science. He regularly delivers lectures at universities, churches, and other community centers, both in USA and Canada. His focus and research are on dismissing misconceptions about Islam, particularly the Holy Quran. Since 2011, he has been attending Islamic seminary lessons under his father, Sayyid Wasim Al-Shara at Hawza Al-Najaf Al-Ashraf in the Al-Zahra Foundation. In 2015, he was also honored to continue Islamic studies in the Hawza of Karbala, Iraq. Sayyid has been with us for the last 2 nights. As you know, this is the 3rd night or the last night of the Fatimiya series of programs that IFAZ organized. I'd really like to thank Sayyid for being with us amongst us for these 3 nights and delivering these beautiful lectures that are so beneficial to our community. I'd like to thank Sayyid on behalf of the IFAZ community and IFAZ board for being here, making the travel in these difficult times, being away from his family. We really value it. It's a sincere gratitude to the Sayyid for that. I'd now like to request Sayyid to come to the minbar with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Alhamdulillah, I would like to also reiterate how grateful and thankful I am to have had the honor of serving as Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam among all of you here today. And inshallah, this is one of many times and opportunities we could serve the Ahlul Bayt all together, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. أفضل الذكر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبا القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى روحك وبدنك الطاهرة صلى الله عليك يا سيدتي نساء العالمين من الأولين والآخرين السلام على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. Amma ba'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says within the Holy Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. A second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. A third in honor of the Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, with your loudest of voices. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. My respected, beloved brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. a Muslim's identity in the West is a crucial part of any Muslim's life. A Muslim goes through many problems and obstacles in the West or in the East. But one of the strongest problems they find themselves facing among their non-Muslim friends is the issue of identity crisis. Many will not begin to explain to you who they are because of the lack of clarity of their own identity. Because while all have been growing up and told various different forms of identity, this leads to many confusion. We are either Muslim, American, Shi'i, Pakistani, Iraqi, Ithnay Ashari. What are we? Many people run into this issue, and this identity crisis is not exclusive to the Muslim community. A lot of people run with this issue. And what does it mean to have an identity crisis? It means to not know your place or your purpose in the world today. You cannot know your purpose if you don't know who yourself is. You can't identify yourself. How will you ever begin to explain what your purpose in life is, or where your place in life is, or where you are best suited or more optimal, or what your efforts are best put to, if you struggle with the identity that you carry yourself? Non-Muslims go through this. And one leading factor for many people to enter depression is this issue of identity crisis. They begin questioning themselves. And it doesn't help when you're given multiple elements to accept and are told sometimes that do not accept this one, but accept that one. And you're told to accept both of them from various sources. San Francisco State University did a research study and examined, this is an interesting study. San Francisco State University many years back issued this report, examined multiple Muslim children between the ages of 5 and 9 years old. These are Muslim Americans living in the United States of America. They looked at them and they asked hundreds of them to see what they identified themselves as. That's a good sample group, young, innocent Muslim children. And the results are rather critical, brothers and sisters, and should teach us today what the status quo is like for our Muslim youth in this world and the next generation to come. 1 out of 6 Muslim boys and girls, if you took 6 of them, the average in the United States of America, try to pretend that they are not Muslim in the United States. They pretend that they're not Muslim. And this is due to multiple factors. I sometimes don't blame some of our youth. When they see Islamophobia, it's scary. When people see aggressive individuals calling for you to go back to where you came from, the young individuals, well, obviously, I'm not going to come forth publicly and show myself as this individual. Many like to say, look, I'm not Muslim. They pretend that they're not Muslim. Pretending means what? So what does it mean to be Muslim? It means to eat halal food. So some will actually opt to eating haram food. Just for the purpose of, look, a Muslim eats food that's halal. This is clearly not halal. Sometimes bacon at school. You don't want to be the odd one out. You don't want to be marginalized or excommunicated. You'll join in because you don't want to be the odd one out in that situation. The young kids have faced this. Young Muslim kids face this. 1 out of 6, get 6, and this is an alarming number. One of them pretends they're not Muslim. Another result was released. 1 out of 3 Muslim children don't want others to know that they are Muslim. So the first sample pretends they're not. The second sample does not want the world to know they're Muslim. How does this affect them? They see themselves and they see others. It's better that you don't know I'm Muslim. And an indication of my Islam are my prayers when it's time to pray. Is my hijab when I have to wear my hijab. So let me release this and have others not know that I am Muslim. It's difficult. I don't know how to explain it. It's confusing. In fact, I barely even understand what this Islam situation is. 1 out of every 3 Muslim children don't want others to know that they're Muslim. It's harder to explain. And the last alarming statistic that was released, again, by which research institution? San Francisco State University, is that 1 out of every 2, Sayyid Haidar, this is incredible, 1 out of every 2 Muslim American children in America believe you cannot be both American and Muslim at the same time. I can't be American and Muslim. These are 2 mutually exclusive concepts. American is something, Muslim is something else. Between the ages of 5 and 9, Muslim children in America have these fallacies. Little do they know, of course, they're children. One's a nationality, the other's a religion. But do you know how much the media has worked its socks off to distinguish and differentiate? Hey, you want to be American? Let go of your Muslim identity. And I don't just blame the media, I blame some Muslims as well. Those are the Americans. You're a Muslim, you're something else. Don't be like them. What are these poor kids at the end of the day? Why give them this identity crisis? Why make them struggle? Identity crisis is in the top 3 reasons that lead to depression. Aside from drug use and aside from breakup and heartbreaks, the loss of your purpose and reason in the world is known as identity crisis. Why institute that to them? When they're being bombarded already from media and TV that you want to be proud American, you have to let go of Islam. And on the other side, many of our community members will tell them the same thing. This struggle, brothers and sisters, leads many youth to, number 1, pretending they're not Muslim. Number 2, not wanting others to know that they're Muslim. And actually believing that if you want to be a Muslim, you cannot be American. Well, what is this? Why instill confusion? The tradition narrates to us that خَيْرُ الْأَوْطَانِ مَا حَمَلَكَ. The best of places or lands is the one that takes care of you, that you live in, that you find peace in. There's a famous, maybe Abu Haidar can help me, there was a famous saying, if I'm not mistaken, by Sheikh Ahmed al-Wa'ili. He used to say, فِي الْغَرْبِ وَجَدْتُ إِسْلَامِ وَمَا وَجَدْتُ مُسْلِمِينَ. أحسنت. الشيخ محمد عبد أحسنت from وجدت إسلام وما وجدت مسلمين. فوجدت مسلمين وما وجدت Islam. In the East, I saw Muslims, but I didn't necessarily see Islam. But in the West, I saw Islam practiced. But people don't call themselves Muslims. How do we marry this? How do we merge this? Because is freedom of speech not an Islamic belief? Of course it is. Is the freedom to practice what you want, given you don't cross ethics and morals, contradict human rights, not Islamic values? Is the freedom to preach what you believe not Islamic values? Is to stand up for the oppressed in the face of oppression not an Islamic value? We see these memorized and instituted by multiple humanitarian organizations. But sometimes we might find many of the majority Muslim world, and I don't hold all accountable, but if you speak against their leader or their person, the next day you're going straight to prison all of a sudden. You speak against that political group, that political hizb, that political party, this issue, this problem, this political situation, don't believe you'll see a next day. But however, sometimes we get this conflict instilled from the last generation onto our little children who don't even understand where this all begins with. And we tell them, while you're here, you cannot be both American and you cannot be Muslim at the same time. So pick one. When they see their friends easily understanding their life, their place, and this issue of identity crisis has been something humankind has wrestled with for centuries. The ancient Greeks have even proposed a paradox for it, a theory called the ship of Theseus paradox. It's a very famous book that talks about a mythical journey of this hero who had a ship that sailed through the land killing monsters. And so when he returned back to his people, they wanted to thank him and honor him. What they decided to do is they promised, "Thank you, Theseus, for all of your effort. As a result, we're going to reward you by preserving your ship for 1,000 years. So after you die, we'll take good care of it, and we'll leave it docked at the port." So when Theseus lived 50 years later, 100 years, he died, the ship needs maintenance. So they said, "Look, we promised we'd take care of this man's ship. We need to preserve its identity. But it's getting really rotten and rusty just sitting there in the water. So let's replace some of the wood, let's replace some of the floor. After 50 years, they replaced the sails. After 150 years, they replaced all of the deck. After a good 1,000 years, the entire ship, every single part was replaced. But do you know what they still called it? That's the same ship of Theseus. Is it really? Because it completely has changed now. And this struggle of identity crisis, brothers and sisters, transcends simple identification of country or nationality. It even goes into a biological level. Because you are not even the same person you were a few days ago. Everything about you changes, inside and outside. If you notice, scientifically speaking, the bones inside your body, every single 10 years, they change, they replenish. The cells break down and they replenish themselves. So the same bones you have today were different 10 years ago. They're not the same. Your hair changes every 6 months. You have different hair than you did 6 months ago. Your red blood cells replenish every 4 weeks. The stomach inside you, the lining replenishes every 5 days. And the cells in your body, subhanallah, every nanosecond die and are born. You're not even the same human you were at a minimum 10 years ago, let alone a few seconds ago. How do you identify yourself? How do we begin addressing this identity crisis among our youth and even among the elder? Inshallah ta'ala, let us look to address all of that after a lot of salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
One of the first things we do, brothers and sisters, is to acknowledge there is nothing wrong with identifying yourself on multiple levels. There's nothing wrong. If you want to call yourself Muslim, be proud and say it. And if you want to call yourself Shia, be proud and say it. An American, if you're living here, what are you? What are you? Ethiopian? American. If you're living here, what are you? Russian? American. If you live here and you reside and you contribute and you're a law-abiding citizen, inshallah, you're American at the end of the day. Does this mean when I identify with a trait that I 100% accept every single principle of these traits? Sometimes yes and sometimes no. What do we mean? Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would often identify himself as, even if we look into the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, when they praise Rasulullah as An-Nabiyyul Arabiyyul Makkiyul Madani, they would constantly use these definitions. What does this mean? That Rasulullah, in order to be great like him, you have to be from his exact... No, you don't have to. But Rasulullah would take pride in where he was from. Why? At the end of the day, this is where he was born. This is where he grew up. His memories are all there. But does that mean when he identifies himself as Al-Makki or Al-Madani or Al-Arabi, for example, that gives it superiority? It doesn't. Why? Because Rasulullah's title is what? Sayyidul Arabi wal Ajam, the master and leader for the Arab and non-Arab. So there is no supremacy of nationality. And the Quran made it very clear. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. That the greatest among you isn't the nationality this, X, Y, and Z. It's the one that simply has consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then why would Rasulullah identify himself? Sometimes by his nationality. Does that mean he 100% falls in line with the values of this? No. Why would Rasulullah be proud of where he is from? Look at Mecca. One of the worst places to live in the 7th century was Mecca. Racist, arrogant individuals who were boastful, who looked down upon others. Women were second-hand citizens. The non-Arab wasn't even considered a citizen. So what's there to be proud of? Rasulullah, by acknowledging this, highlights to us, you can take from the values of a country that are in sync with decent ethics, and you can identify yourself with that. There's nothing wrong with saying you are Muslim, American, Iraqi, Pakistani, Indian. There's nothing wrong with that. Does it mean you 100% fall in line? No, it doesn't. Because if 100% fall in line with this, that makes this country ma'soom all of a sudden. There's nothing ma'soom except the Ahlul Bayt themselves. So 100% we acknowledge the values of Ahlul Bayt indeed. So I am 100% Muslim, I'm 100% Shi'i. That's absolutely great and expected. But if I want to identify myself with my particular relative country or my country of origin, there's nothing wrong with that. What are you greater, better than Nabiullah Yusuf alayhi salam? The man himself worked in this country of Egypt, which was such a shirky country. They worshipped idols. They had a Pharaoh, for goodness sake. The pharaohs coming and going, and he became minister of agriculture in that country, abiding by the rules and disassociating from the ethics and morals that were contradictory to his worldview. The idolatry, he rejected it completely, but he was still a working, contributing part of his society. He identified with that society. Now some will ask the following question: what about prioritizing your madhab above your deen? Should we say we're Shia Muslims or Muslim Shi'i American? It's all relative. It depends. Who are you talking to? A non-Muslim who hasn't even heard of Sunni Shia? For that person, fair enough is to say, I'm a Muslim. Look, I'm a proud Muslim. Then go on and explain. But your religion is not Shia, because Shia is not a religion. God says, Inna ad-deena indallahi al-Islam. What kind of Muslim are you? A Shi'i Ithnay Ashari. That you should be proud of, brothers and sisters. There's nothing wrong with that, absolutely. There are two extremes. One extreme for Muslims living in the West is that they absolutely forego their origin, everything that their parents and the previous generation had to contribute to them, and jeopardize it. I am no longer associated with that. Whether you like it or not, that is your origin. So instead of fighting your origin that will live with you forever, learn to acknowledge the good parts of it. So don't forget, do not be someone that conforms only. Wherever you go, you're like a chameleon. Let me just absolutely acknowledge and adopt all of these traits. What if there are good traits where you came from and carry them with you? Your kindness, your warmth, your generosity, your family. I remember there was an interesting cultural study that was done comparing two similar cultures. And apparently the Arabi culture, or the primarily Muslim culture, they categorized Islam with a culture here, was very similar. They said the closest to it from Western cultures was Italian. Why Italian? Because you can't find two groups that prioritize the family so much. Food is a big deal for us, and food is a big deal for them. At least that's good. Families, very important. Families, respecting the elders. You see, there's always, subhanAllah, and I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but in Italian families, there's always that ancient grandma that's alive, that everyone loves and kisses and respects. And in Islam, we have to honor and revere our elders as well. These are good customs. These are good cultures. There's nothing wrong with that, absolutely whatsoever. The best way to approach these identity crises is to acknowledge there's nothing wrong with having multiple forms of identification. But the best form to identify yourself, brothers and sisters, with, besides country, besides nationality, are your values, your principles. I identify as a free human being. It was once said by a great leader of ours known as Abi Abdullah, when he addressed alayhi salam the opposition, and he would tell them, O Shi'at al-Abi Sufyan, if you individuals do not have any deen inside you, and there is no religion to you, فَكُونُوا أَحْرَارًا فِي دُنْيَاكُمْ, then be free human beings who look for objective truth in this life. Find the truth where it goes. Don't identify with religion, it's okay. But be someone that seeks liberty in the world. Don't be confined to what the mass media or propaganda has to say. Think for yourself. The best way to identify yourself, brothers and sisters, is through your values in this dunya and in this akhirah, inshallah ta'ala. Your values are that you are a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. There is no greater identity than this. And brothers and sisters, one of the greatest, most beautiful examples we have seen that highlight this are in the lives of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, where they showed us you don't have to go to one extreme or the next. The first extreme is that you acknowledge or that you disregard every single value that your origin has. I am no longer Iraqi. I am no longer Pakistani. Why? Because that's not the truth. You're lying to yourself. When you deny the obvious, you begin to form rifts inside you. You know the truth is there, you want to deny it. That causes more confusion inside you. You can't convince yourself of a lie. And the other extreme is to absolutely disregard every form of identity you have here. I am not part of these. Those are the Americans, and I'm something else. Ya Habibi, you've been living here the longest. You're probably born here, for goodness sake. And they are them, and we are this. No, you're just as part of society. Don't disregard, and don't conform. Be balanced in this world. I remember there was a brother in Michigan many years back. He became a real estate agent, and he wanted his business to work, but his name was Muhammad Jum'ah. And he thought, my name might discourage many non-Muslim clients of mine. The, clients who are interested to work with me, they might see my name, and they might think, that's just one of those, let me not look for him. So he wanted to make his name neutral. Many people do this, by the way. They'll change their name. I know a guy, Hussein, became Sam. Ali became Al. People will change their names. This man, he decided to change it for business reasons. So he changed it, his business card. His name is what? Muhammad Jum'ah. He changed it to Michael Friday. Muhammad, Michael, Friday, Jum'ah. So what is this? Just, you acknowledge the reality, live with it. Be unapologetic. Be someone that's proud. The best example we see of those who held their identity with pride are none other than Muhammad and Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And even in their youth, they display to us that you don't conform to society. Society needs to conform to you. You are not doing anything wrong. You have values, and that's your identity. They have horrible values. Don't jeopardize your great values for societies. Even if the entire world is doing wrong and practicing wrong, make sure you are always firm and correct. We see Lady Zahra herself showing us this beautifully. And we are in the nights of Fatimiya. The aristocrats of Mecca, Abu Jahl and Utbah and Utaybah, the children of Abu Jahl and others, and Abu Lahab, they would come and notice the Prophet would be praying as he's facing the Kaaba. Of course, the Qibla changed when the Prophet migrated to Medina 2 years later, from Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem to the Kaaba. But when Rasulullah was in Mecca, he would pray facing Bayt al-Maqdis, but he would have the Kaaba in front of him. So he would pray south of the Kaaba, because Bayt al-Maqdis is north. So the Kaaba is in front of him and he would pray. As he was praying, these aristocrats saw the Prophet, and they say, this is his time where he's depending on his prayer. He cannot move. If you really want to harass him, now is the time to do it. And so they would collect the gunk they would have from after slaughtering the camel, from blood and all of this bad meat, and they would take it and dump it all over the back of the Holy Prophet of Islam. And the Prophet would be in his ruku' in that situation, and he had all of this thrown and hurled at his direction. None other than Lady Fatima came out. And I imagine the audacity of this young girl, arguably at the age of 6 or 7 years old, approaches the Holy Prophet, unapologetic. She could have just conformed, that's the society I live in. Khalas. Nah, make a change in society. You're unhappy with the way things work? Habibi, you have a great opportunity here. Speak out. It's mentioned and fulfilled and cemented in our goodness Bill of Rights. We have the freedom to speak out there. You can speak. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't like what's going on in the world today? You have a voice. I remember there was a brother. He is in Michigan, and he ran for office. In Michigan, there was an individual who tried to pass the Sharia law ban. Banning the Sharia al-Islamiyya in Michigan. Okay, what does that even mean, banning Sharia law? You ask them, why do you guys want to ban Sharia law? First of all, what does it mean? They said, we don't want any stoning. Yeah, it's like a problem we have in Michigan, stoning. Yeah, we have to ban it now. So we don't want beheading. So, mashallah, when was the last time we had whatever. We don't want any of that, so we have to ban it to prevent it. That's as silly as saying we're going to ban the month of Ramadan. We're still going to fast, Habibi. What this does is it gives them more reason to stroke their ego. Oh, we're limiting Islam, those who hate Islam. And this also acts as a foundation for later on. Montreal, Canada, some people think most liberal of places, and indeed it is. But Montreal, Canada, they've banned the hijab. No lady can go to work wearing a hijab in Montreal, Canada. How did that start? They first needed to do a Sharia law ban. Then later on, by extension, they make a hijab ban. We don't want any of that to happen. Not here. Here, alhamdulillah, we can speak. This is from the benefit of identifying as, look, I am just as part of society as you are. And I will protest this. And so we had a brother who was also in the state legislature. He needed to give his vote for this law in order to make it pass. Because he was a Muslim Shi'i individual, he disagreed with this law. Brother Abdullah Hamoud, I remember, he disagreed with it, he voted against it and prevented Sharia law from being banned in Michigan, from the benefits of using your voice in society, from the benefits of getting involved. Lady Zahra saw all of this and she was outspoken. Imagine this young girl, the audacity, the bravery, the courage. We won't see young girls, let alone older men, do anything like this. Goes up to her father and they're all laughing and pointing, and she goes and she cleans all of that from the back of the Holy Prophet of Islam and waits for the Prophet to finish. Hadith narrates, it's gorgeous. She grabs the Prophet's hand and she looks at those who harass the Holy Prophet and begins to condemn them and scold them. Tabban lakum. May Allah condemn you and condemnations be upon you for what you have done. The absolute bravery, such that Rasulullah would see her taking care of him so much, and she had the love and tenderness like a mom has to her child. He titled her like as if she is Ummi Abiha. She is like the mother of her father. How much did Rasulullah love her for what she gave back and contributed to society? She was unapologetic. A society that absolutely contradicted modesty of women. Society back then, many don't realize how bad and rampant, and I try to be careful with these words I am using, the acts and behavior of selling yourself was back then. Women and men would constantly find it normal to commit adultery left, right, and center. There were businesses built, and in order to identify these businesses, they would put red flags. Al-Rayat al-Humar, they call it. A red flag on top of a house meant this house, you can come, pay money, and adultery can be committed. Az-zina wal-'iyadu billah was extremely rampant in society. No one cared about modesty. And the irony of all ironies is, back then there was a red flag. Today you have places like the red light district, subhanallah, where you identify that if you want to do the most immoral of these acts, here's a red signal, come and do it over there where you need to. This was rampant in society. Rasulullah really need to teach the world that will then and there. That's why you have ayat of the Holy Quran that might come and sound very firm, very stern. وَالزَّانِيُ وَالزَّانِيَةُ فَاجْلِدُهُمَا مِئَةَ جَلْدَةٍ جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَ نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. That the adulteress and the adulterer, that there is a penal code to address to them. There is a form of punishment and discipline to them as well. It was rampant, it was a disease. And in that world, Lady Fatimiya Zahra held herself with absolute modesty. A society looked at her and thought that they were confused, that they were lost. Why is she dressed in such a way? Why was she so modest in such a way? They would find it immoral to be modest. Whereas today, alhamdulillah, we all can agree that the most moral of acts is to be modest. Back then, they said it's immoral to be someone that is modest. And of course, you have the family of the Prophet would constantly contradict these societal norms. They would see, look, society, where it has some good aspects here, it has a lot of work. So don't 100% jeopardize your values just to fit into your society. Because a society is not ma'soom, but your Lord is ma'soom. So never jeopardize your values, because your identity is your values. People, they will say, how do I identify myself? My name is Muhammad. Yeah, but there are other Muhammads. You're not exclusive to that. So some, if you see, will add their occupation. Adam, but my occupation, banker. Yeah, but there are other bankers out there. Some will say mom or dad, but that's not exclusive to you. Some will put age. So how would you identify yourself? We mentioned you're not even your own body, for goodness sake, after some time. Identify yourself with your values and principles. What do you stand for? In a world today where it's difficult to hold on to your values, Rasulullah made it very clear. يَأْتِ زَمَانٌ عَلَىٰ أُمَّتِي الْقَابِضِ عَلَىٰ دِينَ كَالْقَابِضِ عَلَىٰ جَمْرَةٍ مِّن نَارٍ. That there will be a time for my ummah holding on to their faith will be like holding on to a hot piece of coal. Those who stay firm to their faith, Allah will reward them double the reward. If you are in such societies and you find yourself able to conform, everyone is doing it. This al-aql al-jam'i, as we call it, this social mind, everyone does it. It's so much easier to jeopardize your religion, brothers and sisters. When the whole world does something or agrees on haram, that haram becomes 1 inch away from doing. Because you can easily do it. Everyone else is doing it and no one will blame you. And the irony is, if you decide not to do it, you're the one being silly. Many people will complain in high school, or even as early as high school, college as well. You don't drink? What's going on with you? You're boring. You don't like to have fun? If having fun became synonymous with drinking, I don't want fun. If the only way to have fun is to drink, what kind of fun is that? But that's the world we live in, unfortunately. You don't drink, and there are many youth, unfortunately, they get lost in this. Confused. Why? Because at home they're told, you're not this. You're not American, you can only be this. At school they're told, what is this Islam, what is this nonsense that you believe in? So what do I do in this situation? These youth, sometimes one of the biggest moments they're looking forward to in high school is that day towards the end of the year where we come together and let's dance, prom. Everyone come and gather. Let us dance and shake and party. Listen to ugly music, drinking ugly drinks, behaving in ugly ways. Can something beautiful emerge from this? No. If you want to have fun, there's another way to have fun. Habibi, Allah did not make something haram except if it was for your own benefit. And Allah did not make something halal except that there was a benefit to it. If you want to have fun, I beg you, I promise, there are other ways to have fun. Memorable ways, not ways where eventually you will regret and live with a life of remorse after one silly act. It took 2 minutes to just drink that haram drink, or to hang with that haram friend. Yes, there are friends that are haram friends to be with. Shayateen are not limited to the jinni world. There are shayateen al-insi wal-jinn. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And may Allah help you be careful from the shaitan that you can't see, but especially from the shaitan you can see. May Allah protect you from those shayateen. Because they come to you, shaitan that you can't see, he whispers. The shaitan al-ins, the humanoid, better the Quran talks about this. Shayateen al-insi wal-jinn. The humanoid shaitan. Who is this? The shaitan al-jinn comes and whispers. You can't hear the whisper, but there's an inclination. النفس الأمارة بالسوء. He just whispers to the chest. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس where? Where does the waswasa go? في قلوب الناس صدور الناس. Look how Rahman Rahim Allah is. He doesn't give the shaitan the advantage. You have the upper hand. Because no matter how much shaitan does his waswasa to you, it doesn't hit your heart. Where does it go? The chest. Why did Allah say the chest? Doesn't the waswasa go to... No, because it goes to the chest. It's up to you to allow it to get to the heart. That's it. Shaitan just says, look, I'm just going to whisper. I didn't compel you or convince you. I just gave you the risala. And you have the risala of Allah and Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah. But here's the risala of shaitan. Which one do you want to accept? Put only one in your heart. Not two. One. Will you accept the message of Allah and Ahlul Bayt? Or will you accept the message of shaitan and his junood? That shaitan does waswasa to the chest. You open your heart and let it go inside. Better not, close it. But God protect you from the shayateen al-ins. I don't know what to say with these guys. Because they come up to you, they don't do whispers. They come up smiling to you. They come up looking at you. They seduce like that. They're a friend at college, at school, at work. This is shaitan you can see. It's difficult to be swayed, not to be swayed by that person. And Allah highlights this in the Holy Quran. A man by the name of Al-A'sha. It's a guy from Yemen. He heard about Islam. He loved it. And he's like, this is great. A day we will all be held accountable. So that man that oppressed me and is no longer around, Allah will actually do. That's great. Alhamdulillah. I like this religion. And men and women are equal in the eyes of Allah. Finally. Beautiful. I like this religion. Al-A'sha wanted to accept Islam. But he's where? In Yemen. At that time Rasulullah was in Medina. He said to his friend, he's like, listen, I'm going to go to Medina. I need to see this Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ala hubbihi sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
I need to see him. I want to become Muslim in front of him. What an honor. His friend said, listen, are you crazy? This man, this Rasul that you're talking about, he made men and women equal. He says, yeah, we're all humans. He's like, okay, but he made black and white equal. He's like, that's perfect. He's like, but you know what else he did? He's like, what? He made drinking haram. La ilaha illallah. I can't, that's difficult. He made drinking haram? Yeah, he did. I was like, oh man, I have to think. I thought I was going to go to Medina and accept Islam. He's like, you know what I should do? Let me drink for one entire year. One whole year, just drink as much as I can. Then I will stop and accept Islam. Sometimes when a speaker is speaking and people are laughing, because of the masks, you have no idea if people are smiling or laughing. I just see this. I just see from the eyes. So I hope people don't look mad or not angry. Inshallah, that this is, inshallah, bringing some sort of relative joy. This man's like, I'm going to drink for one whole year, then it's the whole idea. Let me enjoy as much as I can, then I'll become Muslim. Because once I'm Muslim, I have to stop. He spent one good year. Man, he drank so much. Then he found himself ready. He's like, Yallah, now I'm going to go accept Islam. On his way, halfway there, do you know what happened? He died. He dropped dead and he died. Allah records to us what he does in the akhirah. Listen to these ayat. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. يَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. The day the one who has oppressed himself will begin biting his hand. What is this expression? It's an idiom. That someone is dissatisfied. Haven't you seen sometimes parents when they're very angry at kids, they start doing this. It's like, I'm going to get you when I see you. Some of the little kids are like, yeah, I've seen that before. But the day the zalim will bite on their hands. Why will they bite on their hands? They'll bite on their hands because they will complain, يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا يَا وَيْلَتَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ اتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. The day I wish I had taken the path of the Holy Prophet of Islam. I wish I took his path. Al-A'sha is speaking here in the Akhirah. In the Akhirah, Allah is showing us what He is thinking, what His thought process are. How I wish I took the path of the Prophet. And ya waylata, basically, wa wayla, woe be to me. How I wish I didn't take fulan, that individual, as a friend. Friends, that shaitan, al-ins, be careful. How I wish I didn't take him as a khalil. We all heard the description of Nabiullah Ibrahim, Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. If you're going to be friends with somebody, don't be friends with that person that is basically a living, walking, talking shaitan. They will misguide you more than the actual Iblis himself. How I wish I never took him, that person, or her as a friend. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ. They have taken away from me the remembrance and the purpose of Allah. وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. And shaitan to the human always misguides people. Through this, brothers and sisters, this individual was misguided. You stay firm. If the whole world goes one way, and that way is haram, go the absolute opposite way. It's worth it. Don't conform just because they all identify as one group. Because there's a day, brothers and sisters, where many identified in one group, and they all still said La ilaha illallah, and they all prayed, and they all read Quran, and they all killed Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. These guys were self-proclaimed Muslims. The man who killed Amir al-Mu'mineen, his name is, for goodness sake, Abdul Rahman bin Muljam. He thinks he's doing God's work, and as he strikes Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, إِنَّ الْمُلْكُ لِلَّهِ لَا لَكَ يَا عَلِي. That the governance is to Allah, not to you, Ya Ali. And he really thinks he's doing Allah a favor. Bin Ziyad la'anatullahi ala looks at Lady Zaynab and he says, كَيْفَ رَأَيْتِ, with all audacity, كَيْفَ رَأَيْتِ صُنْعَ اللَّهِ بِأَخِيكِ. How do you see what God has done to your brother? And of course she hit him back a strong reply. I saw nothing but beauty if it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she says that, brothers and sisters, through her unapologetic stance, not to conform. She knew her identity. What it was were her values, brothers and sisters. And today, brothers and sisters, our value on a night like this should be only with one person today, and that's none other than Sayyidati Nisa al-Alameen. We identify ourselves as lovers of Fatima to Zahra, because nothing more and nothing less. Because to us, Fatima teaches us the right way. I want to get back to Rasulullah, yes, but what better way to do it than through his daughter, Lady Zahra alayhi salam. I want to follow Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Imam of the Muttaqeen. What better way to get to Ahlul Bayt than through the bridge? She is the bridge between Nabuwah and Imamah. 124,000 Anbiya. The first is Adam, the last is Al-Khatam, Rasulullah, and we had 12 Imams of Ahlul Bayt. What connects Nabuwah and Imamah? One lady, Fatima Zahra, the daughter of the last Prophet and Messenger of God, and the wife of the first Imam of Ahlul Bayt. She is the bridge that connects prophethood and Imamah together. I want to get to the Messenger, I go through her. I go through the bridge of Fatima. And I want to accept the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. You can forget about the wilayah if you don't accept it through Fatima to Zahra alayhi salam. And on a day like this, brothers and sisters, the Imam himself is heart shattered when he is watching over his beloved wife in those last and final moments. The very bridge that connected Nabuwah and Imamah has broken down now. Is cracked and is severed. And no longer can the world connect between the Prophet and Islam except if they walk through the bridge of Fatima to Zahra. I always like to say this, that Madinatul Ilmi is what? Is the Prophet of Islam. The city of knowledge is the Prophet. The gate of the city is Ali. But the bridge that crosses you into the gate is Fatima to Zahra alayhi salam. And Lady Fatima today, brothers and sisters, is telling Amir al-Mu'mineen her last and final will. Lady Fatima is oppressed. She had her rights and the will of the Prophet usurped and rejected. And she didn't have those. At least she can make her own will right now between her and Amir al-Mu'mineen. The Prophet's will was not executed. But now this is the only will she has where she knows it will be executed. And what was this will? As she says in a soft and heartbroken voice to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, she says to him, Ya Ali, have I been an obedient wife to you? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, my beloved Fatima, there was never a time that I saw you except that my heart would relax. I would look at you and I would instantly forget all of my miseries. You've been the greatest of life's companions to me, Ya Zahra. She says, Ya Ali, I worry that my children will be orphaned after me because I feel the time is near. So Ya Ali, I request that you marry my daughter Umama, my niece Umama. She had a niece and she requested that at least let there be someone to watch them and care for them. And she said, Ya Ali, and this tradition is found, brothers and sisters, in Sahih Muslim from the non-Shia world and in our material. I beg you, do not allow those who have usurped my rights between Abu Bakr and Umar to attend my funeral janazah. This is found in bipartisan material, whether it's the Sahih work from the non-Shia world and in our world. Do not let them attend my funeral, for I am dissatisfied with them, for they have usurped my rights. They have hurt me and have violated my sanctity. This is a line that is truly heartbreaking. Violated my hurma, my sanctity. And I wish none of them come near me. Ya Ali, bury me in the night. And Amir al-Mu'mineen endures these moments and these painful words. He agrees to do all of these and fulfills them. He leaves Lady Zahra alayhi salam, and he goes to pray in that masjid. As he leaves, Lady Zahra alayhi salam also departs this world, Shahida Madluma. Al-Hasanan run back to the masjid of Rasulullah, and they're crying and crying. And they see Abu Dhar say to them, "O children of Rasulullah, why are you running and fast and crying this way?" They would say, "Oh, our dear beloved uncle, عجبا للسماء لم تنطبق على الأرض لقد ماتت أمنا فاطمة." How surprising and a shock. The sky doesn't collapse on the earth, for our mother Fatima has died. They run back to the masjid, they cry, they say, "Ya Ali, our mom has left this world." Amir al-Mu'min was standing, he dropped down and fainted. Asadullah al-Ghalib fell only once in his life when he heard the heartbreaking news. When he goes back to his home, he sees that this is the reality. Eventually him and Asma bint Umays go to prepare the funeral of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. As Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib goes to wash the body of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, he begins to wash her blessed body, and then he stops. Lady Asma bint Umays says, "I saw Haydar al-Karrar cry like I've never seen him cry before. Then I saw him go to the corner of the room, and he sat down, and he grabbed his knees, and he put his head between his knees and began to cry. I said to him, 'Ya Ali, why do you cry in this way? Al-mawtu lakum aada wa karamatukum min Allah shahada.' That martyrdom is an honor to you. Why do you cry in this way?" He said, "Oh, our dear Asma, as I was washing her body, my hand rubbed across her rib, and I felt the brokenness of those bones. And she never told me that she had her ribs broken. She stayed patient for my sake. Lady Asma, don't blame me, for I have felt the ribs of my wife were shattered." When Amir al-Mu'mineen, brothers and sisters, the night of Fatimiya, it's good, let the tear out. This will do shafa'ah for you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. When Amir al-Mu'mineen takes Lady Zahra to her grave, he brings the body, Al-Hasan, Al-Hussein, Lady Zainab. They are all there together watching over the body. Imam Ali says to his children, "Say goodbye to your mothers. This will be the last time you see her." Imam Hassan throws himself on the legs of Fatima Zahra. Imam Abi Abdullah al-Hussein throws himself on the chest of his mother Fatima, and he began to call out, "Umma kallimini, ana habibuki al-Hussein." Mother, answer me, I am your beloved Hussein. The hadith says, Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel came down from Jannah. He said to Ali, "Ya Ali, remove Hussein from the chest of his mother, for the angels cannot handle seeing Hussein crying on the chest of his mother." Oh, angels of Allah, you couldn't handle seeing Hussein on the chest of his mother. How did you handle seeing Shimr on the chest of Hussein? Oh, angels of Allah, you couldn't handle seeing Hussein cry. How did you handle seeing him heartbroken in Karbala? Wa Hussein, Ya Hussein, مأتم الحسين، يا حسين 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 يا حسين. All together, يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
یا حسین تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در، پھر وہ جلتا ہوا در مجھ پہ گرایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا. آگے جواب دیں سب. تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا، راکھ تھی شعلے تھے سہمے ہوئے بچے یا دھواں، میرے آنگن میں تھا ایک شام غریباں کا سماں، در ہٹا کر مجھے فیضا نے اٹھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، لوٹ کر آئی تو چہرہ بھی میرا زخمی تھا، میری زینب کو میری پیشی کا پہلا نوحہ، میرے بالوں کی سفیدی نے سنایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے گھر کو جلایا بابا ہے، بیٹھ کر پڑھتی ہوں مشکل سے نماز شب بھی، پھر بھی عباس کی خلقت کی دعا بھولی نہیں، جب بھی زخمی ہوئے ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے گھر کو جلایا بابا ہے، لے چلے قیدی بنا کر جو علی کو دشمن، میں نے چھوڑا نہیں ہے در کی ابا کا دامن، قاضیانوں نے مگر مجھ سے چھڑایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا ہے، زخمی حالت میں بھی دہلیز سے باہر آئی، اور علی ولی اللہ بچا کر لائی، عہد جو میں نے کیا تھا وہ نبھایا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے در کو جلایا بابا ہے، کون سا در ہے جہاں آپ کی بیٹی نہ گئی، بات سننا تو کجا یوں ہوئی عزت میری، کوئی دروازے سے باہر نہیں آیا بابا، تیری امت نے میرے گھر کو جلایا بابا ہے، جس جگہ آپ نے رک رک کے اجازت مانگی वहाँ गुस्ताख मुसलमानों ने बैयत मांगी, कोई शोले तो कोई लकड़ियां लाया बाबा, तेरी उम्मत ने मेरे दर को जलाया बाबा। हाय अर्श और फर्श पे मोहसिन हुआ कोहराम बपा, जिस घड़ी रो के विलायत की शहीदा ने कहा, मुझको हंस हंस के ज़माने ने रुलाया बाबा, तेरी उम्मत ने मेरे घर को जलाया बाबा, है तेरी उम्मत ने मेरे दर को जलाया बाबा, है तेरी उम्मत ने मेरे दर को जलाया बाबा। या हुसैन 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 या हुसैन।
اللهم صل على محمد وآله. زيارة السيدة فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله، السلام عليك يا بنت نبي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خليل الله، السلام عليك يا بنت صفي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أمين الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خير خلق الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أفضل أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته، السلام عليك يا بنت خير البرية، السلام عليك يا سيدة نساء العالمين من الأولين والآخرين، السلام عليك يا زوجة ولي الله وخير الخلق بعد رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أم الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام عليك أيتها الصديقة الشهيدة، السلام عليك أيتها الرضية المرضية، السلام عليك أيتها الفاضلة الزكية، السلام عليك أيتها الحوراء الإنسية، السلام عليك أيتها التقية النقية، السلام عليك أيتها المحدثة العليمة، السلام عليك أيتها المحدثة العليمة، السلام عليك أيتها المظلومة المغصوبة، السلام عليك أيتها المضطهدة المقهورة، السلام عليك يا فاطمة بنت رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، صلى الله عليك وعلى روحك وبدنك. أشهد أنك مضيت على بينة من ربك، وأن من سرك فقد سر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن جفاك فقد جفا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن آذاك فقد آذى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن وصلك فقد وصل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، لأنك بضعة منه وروحه التي بين جنبيه. أشهد الله ورسله وملائكته أني راض عمن رضيت عنه، ساخط على من سخطت عليه، متبرئ ممن تبرأت منه، موال لمن واليت، معاد لما عاديت،
مبغض لمن أبغضت محب لمن أحببت وكفى بالله شهيدا وحسيبا وجازيا ومثيبا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إن شاء الله.
السلام عليكم. الله قاسم. السلام عليكم. حبيبي. كيف اسمه دعاء؟ حبيبي. تقبل الله حبيبي. Your excuse. That's really cool. Your excuse. تقبل الله أعمالكم.
محمد واقف.
Yeah. You want to be at the airport? No.
What time is your flight?
Yeah, it's
20 minutes. The airport is 20 minutes from here, so you get there 2:30. Do you have check bags?
No check. Yeah, we board 3. We board 4 o'clock. Board exactly.
That's really good.
Yeah, hour and a half.
What time will you leave at 20 minutes till we there? 2:25. So is Mahdi Abbas currently?
He is a solution.
Have you met Mahdi?
I don't know if I have the honor.
Was he here for
He was here for Sunday school.
Just Sunday school?
Yes. You probably will recognize him. You'll find him.
Is he here tonight?
No, he's not here.
How long?
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing?
We had a good time. Who were you against? Sarah, yeah, mashallah. Also, are you right? Yeah. It's Sarah. Sarah, we're doing it.
Please take the.
Inshallah, everything's okay. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I'm recovering. Inshallah, الشفاء بتاعك. أنا أبو علي صح. بالإبل صح. لا عن والنعم على حبيبي شرفت. Theseus, special. Yeah. أخوكم محمد حسن.
This is for you. سيد أمين.
بس هو مو سيد
لا نعرف الحين اسمك من الناس ماشي؟
انا مو سيد.
لا اقول لك اتذكر اسمك من الناس.
وايد شلون يطير الرحمن بس يشوف ناشف عوضهم سيد. احنا بالكويت مو شرط.
नबी भाई खाना लिया आपने brother please don't leave without taking food. I think Muhammad is bringing food over there. Abu Hassan, have you taken yours? Come on.
version of that.